Hi, as a medical doctor and USCCA instructor, I like to share my thoughts on self and home defense. And on last video, we talked about the 4 risks that you have as soon as you decide to defend yourself and your loved ones with a firearm. And that was bodily harm or death, financially, legally, and emotionally. And today I want to talk about the best way to avoid these 4 risks. When you're about to become a victim of violent crime, there are really only 4 outcomes. And there's avoidance, escape, defend, or sadly become part of statistics. And the best way is first to avoid and escape. But we will talk about all 4 outcomes. Now, for most of you, avoid and escape is too obvious, and you might even say, why are we even talking about it? But as a medical doctor, I have seen many victims that end up in the hospital who tell me they knew something wasn't right and they should have turned around or they should have avoided. But they keep telling themselves, it's okay, you're overreacting, it's gonna be safe. And honestly, in most cases, you might be overreacting, but it only takes them one time that can be your last or leave you severely damaged mentally and physically. And as you know, most of us live in different environment, different city, and has a different work environment. So I can only share with you guys from my own personal experience about these 4 outcomes. First, let's talk about avoid. Now, this really applies to anywhere in public, but especially when you're in an unfamiliar area or time of the day when the street is very quiet. You have to be alert at all times and be aware of your surroundings. Yes, that means no cell phones to text, call, or listen to music. And you should travel in group. You might say, what do you mean? Well, in my case, when we go on a family vacation, and usually the main road, the hotel fees are quite expensive, so we'd actually get a hotel that's about 2 or 3 streets behind. But at the end of the day, sometimes my kids, or my wife, or even myself, wants to go out and get something. And in most cases, my kids will say, Dad, I'm gonna run out and get something. And I will always say, stop. And either I go with him or send somebody with him or her. You'll be surprised how many people get attacked near where they're staying. And next, stay on the main road. Do not take the shortcut. Now, when my parents had a restaurant in LA downtown when I was young, getting to the parking building through the alley was so much faster than going around the Broadway. But my father made sure we always went through the Broadway, not the alley. Next, let's talk about the time frame. Now, for you to avoid, you need at least 1 minute or more. And distance-wise, it's about 50 yards or more. Now, this means if you see a group of people or one person that just gives you the wrong vibe, don't continue to go their route, turn around and go the other way. And for guys, this is tough because it kind of goes against our pride. And for ladies, even talking to my daughter Rachel, they think it's rude. It's not rude. And you also have to look out for areas that you think criminal could hide behind, such as dumpsters or corner of the building. So when you're walking by these areas, you want to make a wide circle just to make sure you keep the distance and make sure you intentionally look into the areas and be ready to run. You have to understand, most criminals will not chase you down when you're running. They will just look for a different victim. Next, let's talk about escape. Now, to escape, you need at least 5 to 30 seconds. Now, that means it could be anywhere between 7 yards to 50 yards. And this is most crucial time right before the disaster strikes. And this is when you identify potential threat. At this point, you need to think fast. Either escape into a building where there are other people, or turn around and walk the other direction, or if you need to, when safe, run across the street and avoid the whole situation. Now, I could give you my personal experience. When we went to Europe, early in the morning, it was up to me and Rachel to go out and get a fresh bakery, and it was still dark in the morning, and we had to walk through a very quiet street. And one time we were walking down the street, and right around the corner, and because it was a window, I could see a person standing behind the corner of the building. So I grabbed Rachel's hand, and there was no traffic, so we crossed the street. And Rachel asked me, Dad, what are you doing? So I told her there was someone behind the corner. And as we were passing by, I looked at him, and it looked like he was talking on the cell phone. Now, it could be nobody talking on the cell phone, or it could be a criminal pretending to talk on the phone. Now, either way, there's no reason to find out. Just escape the situation. And other times when my kids were little, we went to DC. And if you've been to DC, you know, it's really hard to find a parking lot in a main attraction street. So most people park their car 3-4 streets behind. And we did the same thing. And at the end of the day, we're going to our car. I see these 3 guys across the street coming at us with a map in their hand. And they were asking for direction. So when they came close, but I keep walking backwards with my hand in my pocket, and I told them, I'm not from here, so I don't know. And at this point, they stopped, and they turned around and just walked away. And later, my family asked me, what were you doing? I told them, the street is quiet, and I have no idea who they are. And I just didn't like 3 guys approaching our family. So I wanted to keep my distance, and by doing so, I might have offended them if they were not the criminals, or I discouraged them from attacking us if they were criminals. Either way, escape the situation. If you think it's a potential threat, don't think twice, act on it. And don't worry about offending other person. And the third is to defend. According to FBI, more than 90% of criminal attack happens within 3 to 5 seconds. And it's under 15 feet. So at this point, every second counts, and this is when you possibly identify the real threat, such as somebody coming at you with a baseball bat, steel pipe, knife, guns, or other weapon. Now, if you're even aware of your surroundings, and if you practice enough, you'll have a very good chance of accessing your firearm and stopping the threat. And the fourth is becoming part of statistics. And the only thing that I can say is don't. Okay, lastly, I want to talk about 4 color codes of awareness developed by Jeff Cooper during World War II. And there's white, yellow, orange, and red. First is condition white, complete unawareness. And you see this a lot nowadays because they're always on their cell phone, texting, talking, listening to music, and they really don't know what's going on around them. And this is what the criminals are looking for. Makes it easy target. Next is condition yellow. Now this is when you're aware of your surroundings, constantly looking around, and making a short eye contact with people that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, and looking for a way to avoid or escape the situation if it happens. At this point, you have not identified any potential threat, so you really shouldn't overreact with your posture or with your eye contact. And you have to remember, if you're concealed carrying, you have to be in condition yellow. Next is condition orange. Now this is when you identify the potential threat, and this is when you should act to avoid or to escape. And mentally, you have to be ready to access your firearm. Lastly is condition red. This is when you possibly identify the threat. That could be somebody with a knife, baseball bat, gun, or any kind of weapon. Or they might not even have any weapon. It could be 3 or 4 guys coming at you with a bad intention. Now at this point, depending on the situation, you could have your hand on your pistol with your hand open, or have your pistol at a high ready position pointing downwards and shout, "Stop! Don't come any closer," or drop your weapon. And hopefully at this point, you could stop the threat without firing a single shot. But if you're at the situation which you didn't start, you couldn't get out of, and you felt the immediate danger for your life or for your loved ones, then you have to defend yourself with your firearm. Now, like everything else, you need to plan and practice. So in our next video, we're going to talk about the self and home defense plan and talk about how to practice. See you later.